What if the next billion-dollar business doesn't come from a bold invention, but from a small idea almost everyone else ignores? Most people chase big, impressive concepts, assuming scale only comes from something dramatic. But the truth is, the most powerful businesses often start as modest insights that didn't look important at the time. In this audiobook, you'll discover how to spot those overlooked opportunities, train your mind to see potential where others see nothing, and turn small ideas into market-defining successes. You'll learn the exact mechanisms that transform tiny sparks into defensible advantages, how to leverage early feedback to refine and scale quickly, and the mindset shifts that separate those who watch opportunities slip away from those who turn them into unstoppable growth. By the end, you'll see why the quiet, simple ideas often hold the most power, and how to take action so your small insights become the foundation for massive business wins. Chapter 1. The Seed of Innovation: Spotting the Unseen Potential. Most people overlook the small sparks that grow into market-defining businesses. They're chasing the dramatic, the flashy, the obviously big idea. But the truth is that the foundation of extraordinary growth often starts in quiet moments. A minor frustration noticed, a small inefficiency observed, or a tiny adjustment no one else considered. These are the seeds of innovation, and learning to identify them is the first step toward transforming small ideas into massive business wins. The challenge is that our brains are biased against small ideas. We're conditioned to equate size with value and visibility with importance. When a thought seems minor or insignificant, we unconsciously dismiss it. It's too simple, we tell ourselves. Someone else must already be doing it. It won't scale. And yet, every successful business has been built on ideas that initially looked modest. Post-it notes started as a failed adhesive experiment. Airbnb began with a single apartment and an air mattress. Instagram started as a simple photo-sharing app. These ideas didn't arrive fully formed or flashy. They started small, close to reality, and grew because someone recognized their hidden potential. So how do you start spotting these opportunities? It begins with observation. Look for small frictions in everyday life. Notice the workarounds people invent, the complaints that keep recurring, the tiny inefficiencies everyone tolerates. These are signals. They point to areas where innovation can make a real difference. Developing this kind of idea radar requires curiosity and attention to detail. It's about paying closer attention to what people actually do, not just what they say they want. Next comes validation. Small ideas are fragile at first. They need testing and refinement to reveal their true potential. Rapid prototyping, experimentation, and early feedback are essential. This isn't about perfection. It's about discovering whether your small idea has a spark that can ignite growth. Even micro-adjustments can turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. The key is to act quickly and iterate intelligently. Another critical step is building defensibility. Many small ideas fail because they are easily copied or dismissed once they gain attention. Creating a defensible advantage early, whether through unique processes, community building, or intellectual property, ensures that the idea you nurture can grow without being easily undermined. This isn't about over-engineering. It's about being strategic and intentional from the start. Finally, mindset plays a central role. The people who succeed in transforming small ideas into big wins embrace resilience, curiosity, and persistence. They're willing to experiment, fail, and learn continuously. They overcome the fear of starting small and see potential where others see insignificance. They understand that growth is rarely linear, and that patience combined with disciplined action compounds over time. Spotting the unseen potential isn't a talent reserved for a select few. It's a skill, and it can be trained. By observing carefully, testing relentlessly, protecting intelligently, and cultivating the right mindset, you can consistently turn small ideas into real opportunities. The world is full of overlooked sparks, and the ones who succeed are the ones who notice them first, act decisively, and scale them thoughtfully. Chapter 2. The Strategic Alchemy, from Concept to Competitive Edge. Once you've identified a small idea with potential, the real work begins. Ideas alone do not create market-defining businesses. Transformation happens in the way you act, test, refine, and protect those insights. Turning a modest spark into a competitive edge is what I call the strategic alchemy of business. The process of converting a raw, overlooked concept into a structured, defensible, and scalable advantage. The first step in this alchemy is rapid prototyping. Many aspiring entrepreneurs wait for the perfect version of their idea before taking action. They polish, they refine, they overthink. And in doing so, they often lose the critical window of opportunity. In contrast, the most successful innovators start small. They test the waters quickly. A prototype doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to exist. It's a tool for learning, not a finished product. By creating a tangible version of your idea, even a simplified one, you begin to understand its practical challenges and uncover ways to improve it. Next comes validation. Testing is not just a step, it's a mindset. Validation involves putting your idea in front of real people and observing their reactions. How do they interact with it? Do they notice its value? Where do they struggle? Early feedback is gold. It shows you what works, what needs adjustment, and where you might pivot. The goal is not to confirm that your idea is flawless. It's to reveal its true potential and guide it towards scalability. The faster and more frequently you validate, the sharper your competitive edge becomes. Building defensibility is the third essential element. Every idea, no matter how small, needs protection to survive and thrive. Defensibility can take many forms. Unique processes that others cannot easily replicate, building a passionate community around your product, or leveraging intellectual property, such as patents, trademarks, or proprietary technology. Without some layer of protection, even the most brilliant small idea risks being copied, diluted, or overtaken before it gains traction. Think of defensibility as the shield that allows your idea to grow without being destroyed by competitors. Another critical layer is agility. Markets evolve, customer preferences shift, and technology advances rapidly. A small idea that succeeds today may require adjustment tomorrow. The ability to pivot intelligently, to adapt your approach without losing sight of your core concept, is what separates sustainable growth from short-lived novelty. Agility doesn't mean changing your idea every time a challenge arises. It means having a system of iteration that allows the idea to evolve naturally, informed by data and feedback. Equally important is the discipline of prioritization. Every idea, even the small ones with massive potential, has constraints, time, energy, resources. The strategic innovator knows where to focus first, which experiments to run, and which features or efforts are truly essential. This discipline ensures that you don't spread yourself too thin and that the small idea you are nurturing has the best chance to become meaningful and impactful. Finally, the mindset of ownership matters deeply. You must treat your small idea as something worth defending, growing, and refining. You cannot wait for permission or validation from external sources. Instead, you commit to learning, iterating, and improving relentlessly. Ownership means accepting both the responsibility and the opportunity to shape your idea's path to success, no matter how humble its beginnings. The strategic alchemy of turning concepts into competitive advantages is both art and science. It demands observation, action, protection, adaptability, and relentless focus. By mastering these principles, you begin to see small ideas not just as potential, but as tools capable of reshaping markets. What once seemed insignificant becomes a lever, and each thoughtful action compounds into measurable, sustainable growth. Remember, an idea without execution is just a thought. Execution with strategy turns it into power. The small insights you notice today, when tested, refined, and protected with strategic intent, become the competitive advantages that can define your business tomorrow. And that is where true exponential impact begins. Chapter 3: Fueling the Fire: Growth Mechanisms for Exponential Impact. Identifying a small idea and transforming it into a competitive edge is just the beginning. Once you have a concept that works, the next challenge is scaling it effectively. Growth doesn't happen automatically. It requires deliberate mechanisms, smart leverage, and strategic amplification. The businesses that dominate markets understand one fundamental truth: exponential impact is not a product of luck, it's engineered. The first mechanism to harness is virality. Many small ideas seem niche at first, but with the right approach, they can spread far beyond their original audience. Virality is not just about flashy campaigns or trendy gimmicks. It's about creating something so inherently useful, enjoyable, or shareable that people naturally want to spread it. Think of Dropbox in its early days, offering additional storage space when users invited friends. That simple, low-cost incentive tapped human behavior and created rapid, organic growth. The lesson is clear. Structure your small idea in a way that encourages natural sharing. Every tiny step that prompts engagement multiplies your reach exponentially. Next is network effects. This is where the value of your product or service grows as more people use it. Small ideas can leverage this by connecting users, creating communities, or building platforms that benefit from increasing participation. Airbnb didn't become massive just because of clever marketing. It succeeded because every additional host made the platform more valuable to travelers, and every traveler attracted more hosts. Recognize how your idea can create positive feedback loops where growth fuels itself. Even a small insight, when embedded in a network, can snowball into significant influence. Another critical lever is strategic partnerships and collaborations. Small businesses often underestimate the power of aligning with others who amplify their reach or credibility. Partnerships can take many forms: co-branding, distribution agreements, joint ventures, or influencer collaborations. By connecting your small idea with existing networks and audiences, you gain leverage that would take years to build independently. The key is intentionality. Choose partners whose values, goals, and audiences align with your vision, and structure collaborations that create mutual benefit. Modern growth also demands embracing technology and automation. Scaling a small idea efficiently requires leveraging tools that extend your reach without proportionally increasing costs. Automation of repetitive tasks, AI-assisted processes, and intelligent analytics are no longer luxuries. They are necessities. For example, email marketing sequences, chatbots, or AI-driven recommendation engines allow businesses to deliver value at scale without hiring a large team. The combination of a small, well-structured idea and smart technology creates a multiplier effect that traditional growth methods cannot match. However, none of these mechanisms work without strategic timing and pacing. Growth is not about rushing blindly. It's about knowing when to push, when to iterate, and when to consolidate. Many entrepreneurs burn out or overextend by trying to scale too quickly without solid foundations. The art of fueling exponential impact involves patience, discipline, and careful observation of how your idea interacts with the market. Track the metrics that matter, but also pay attention to qualitative signals, customer behavior, engagement patterns, and feedback loops, because real exponential growth is both measurable and felt. Mindset also plays a pivotal role. Entrepreneurs who scale effectively embrace the abundance of opportunity, but they pair it with disciplined action. They understand that setbacks are part of the process, and they see failure as data, not defeat. Resilience, adaptability, and curiosity become compounding advantages in themselves. Each iteration, each experiment, each pivot brings the small idea closer to its full potential. The mental framework of seeing growth as a process to be engineered, rather than a chance occurrence, differentiates leaders from followers. Finally, understand the power of momentum. Exponential impact compounds when small wins are recognized, celebrated, and strategically leveraged into the next move. Every incremental gain builds credibility, confidence, and capacity to push further. It's not just about achieving scale. It's about creating a self-reinforcing cycle where success fuels more success, and the energy of growth becomes a tangible force in your business. Fueling exponential impact is not about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's about identifying the levers: virality, network effects, partnerships, technology, timing, mindset, and momentum, and pulling them with intention. A small idea, when nurtured with these mechanisms, becomes unstoppable. What once seemed modest now drives massive influence, market share, and long-term competitive advantage. When you look at businesses that have transformed industries, you'll notice a pattern. The biggest successes didn't start with massive resources or bold declarations. They started with something small, carefully amplified, and strategically scaled. And this is your blueprint. By understanding the mechanisms that fuel exponential impact, you position your small ideas to grow far beyond what anyone initially imagined, including yourself. Chapter 4. The Mindset of the Magnifier, Psychology of Scaling Success. Growth, strategy, and mechanics can only take an idea so far. To truly transform a small insight into a market-defining business, you need the right mindset. I call this the mindset of the magnifier, the psychological framework that allows you to see potential beyond what is obvious, to amplify small wins into exponential outcomes, and to persist through the inevitable challenges that come with scaling. The first principle of this mindset is overcoming the "it's too small" mentality. Many entrepreneurs and innovators dismiss ideas because they seem insignificant at first glance. They believe that unless an idea is flashy or revolutionary, it won't matter. But the truth is that the most powerful growth often begins in humble, unassuming spaces. The ability to recognize and value small opportunities is what separates those who watch potential slip away from those who convert it into market dominance. Seeing small ideas as fertile ground, rather than trivial, rewires how you approach innovation. Next is embracing failure as a learning engine. Scaling any idea inevitably comes with setbacks. Initial prototypes will fail, early launches may underperform, and market reactions might be unpredictable. Entrepreneurs with a magnifier mindset view these moments not as roadblocks, but as data. Each failure is a signal, a lesson, and an opportunity to refine the approach. Fear of failure is natural, but magnifiers understand that hesitation costs far more than mistakes ever could. Acting decisively, iterating quickly, and learning continuously are far more valuable than waiting for perfection. Another key element is resilience in the face of adversity. Scaling an idea from small to significant is rarely smooth. Challenges multiply as visibility increases, competition grows, and expectations rise. Psychological endurance, the ability to stay focused, maintain clarity, and keep pushing forward despite obstacles, is a non-negotiable skill. Resilience isn't innate. It's developed through deliberate practice. Facing discomfort, taking responsibility, and maintaining belief in your vision, even when outcomes are uncertain. The power of focus is also central to the magnifier mindset. In the early stages, small ideas often require disproportionate attention to detail. Each decision, each adjustment, and each experiment carries weight. Distractions, shallow engagements, or spreading yourself too thin can dilute impact. Magnifiers cultivate an unwavering focus, prioritizing the activities that compound growth and influence. They know that energy is finite, but when directed strategically, it multiplies results. Vision is equally important. Magnifiers possess the ability to see the end from the beginning. They understand where a small idea could go, even if the path isn't clear yet. This isn't about wishful thinking or fantasy. It's about mapping potential trajectories, anticipating obstacles, and designing experiments that guide the idea closer to its maximum impact. Vision creates alignment, clarity, and purpose, both for the entrepreneur and for the team that may eventually support the idea. Another aspect is adaptability. Markets, technologies, and human behavior are constantly changing. What worked yesterday may fail tomorrow. Magnifiers cultivate the flexibility to pivot intelligently without abandoning their core vision. They remain rooted in their purpose, but agile in execution. Adaptability allows you to respond to insights, refine strategies, and embrace opportunities that were invisible at the outset. Finally, magnifiers leverage psychological compounding. Just as small ideas compound into market-defining businesses, small shifts in mindset compound into extraordinary capabilities. Daily habits of reflection, disciplined decision-making, curiosity, and calculated risk-taking build mental muscle. Over time, these habits reinforce confidence, clarity, and strategic insight. The mind of a magnifier is trained to spot leverage, amplify potential, and persist with unwavering focus. When you cultivate this mindset, scaling becomes less intimidating and more systematic. Challenges are reframed as opportunities. Small ideas no longer feel insignificant. Every decision, every action, and every experiment becomes part of a larger, intentional process. You move with clarity, confidence, and a sense of purpose, knowing that growth is a function of your mindset as much as your mechanics. The mindset of the magnifier is, in essence, the difference between seeing a small spark and ignoring it versus nurturing that spark until it reshapes entire markets. It's a psychological framework, a disciplined approach, and a mental edge that allows ordinary ideas to become extraordinary. By embracing resilience, focus, vision, adaptability, and compounding habits, you train yourself to think exponentially, act decisively, and transform modest beginnings into sustainable, market-defining impact. Chapter 5. Your next big win. Actionable steps to transform your ideas. By now, you've learned how to spot small ideas, test and refine them, leverage growth mechanisms, and cultivate the mindset required to magnify potential. All of this knowledge sets the stage for one crucial question. How do you turn insight into action and transform small ideas into tangible, market-defining wins? The first step is evaluating your ideas realistically. Not every small insight will scale or create competitive advantage, but every idea has potential if approached with the right lens. Begin by asking 3 questions. Does this idea solve a real problem that people care about? Can it be implemented quickly, without waiting for perfect conditions? Does it have potential for compounding growth, either through network effects, scalability, or defensibility? Answering these questions allows you to separate fleeting thoughts from actionable concepts. A small idea that checks all 3 boxes becomes a candidate for rapid testing and execution. Next, define your first actionable step. Momentum is built through movement, not planning alone. Identify something you can do in the next 72 hours, a prototype, a test, a conversation, or a small launch. The key is speed. Small wins compound faster than delayed perfection. Even minimal action provides invaluable data and insight, guiding your next move. Remember, execution trumps perfection every time. Once you've taken action, embrace the feedback loop. Collect responses, observe behavior, and measure outcomes carefully. Feedback isn't just about corrections. It's about understanding your market, discovering hidden opportunities, and refining your approach. Each insight guides iteration, helping you adjust quickly without wasting time or resources. Small ideas often reveal their true potential only after repeated, thoughtful testing. Then comes building momentum strategically. One of the most overlooked aspects of scaling small ideas is the power of compounding progress. Every success, no matter how minor, can fuel the next move. Celebrate these micro wins internally, but also use them externally to attract attention, support, and credibility. Momentum is not accidental. It's cultivated through deliberate, consistent action, and by recognizing that each step is a building block towards something much larger. Another crucial element is prioritizing leverage. Not every task has equal impact. Focus on actions that amplify results. Automating processes, creating partnerships, or designing virality into your product or service. Leverage is what transforms effort into exponential impact. Small actions, when executed strategically, become disproportionately powerful, turning what seems like incremental progress into breakthroughs. You also need a framework for scaling decisions. As your idea grows, complexity increases. The questions you ask, the trade-offs you make, and the priorities you set determine whether small wins become sustainable successes or fleeting experiments. Create simple, repeatable criteria for evaluating growth opportunities, potential reach, defensibility, ease of execution, and alignment with your long-term vision. Consistent application of this framework prevents reactive decision-making and ensures that every step compounds meaningfully. Mindset remains central at this stage. Growth amplifies challenges, and scaling exposes vulnerabilities. Fear, impatience, or overconfidence can undermine even the most promising ideas. Reinforce the magnifier mindset you cultivated earlier. Stay resilient, embrace learning, maintain clarity, and focus relentlessly on the levers that produce results. Remember that scaling is as much psychological as it is practical. Your mental discipline directly affects the trajectory of your idea. Finally, embrace continuous iteration. Even after initial success, your small idea can be improved, expanded, or adapted to capture new opportunities. Use analytics, customer behavior, and creative thinking to iterate continuously. Growth is never static. It is an ongoing process of refinement, experimentation, and amplification. The small idea that launched your journey can continue to evolve, creating layers of impact far beyond what you initially imagined. In essence, your next big win is built through action, focus, and relentless iteration. Evaluate opportunities, take decisive steps, gather feedback, amplify results through leverage, and maintain the mindset that allows you to persist and grow. Small ideas become significant when treated as living entities, nurtured, tested, refined, and scaled thoughtfully. By following these steps consistently, you create a system where action generates insight, insight drives improvement, and improvement compounds into undeniable growth. Your small ideas, approached methodically and executed strategically, become the foundation for lasting business success. Chapter 6: Building the Flywheel, turning growth into a self-sustaining engine. Reaching growth is one thing. Sustaining it is something entirely different. Many businesses experience a burst of momentum, only to stall once the initial energy fades. This happens because growth was treated as an event rather than a system. True, lasting success comes when your business no longer depends on constant pushing. Instead, it begins to pull itself forward. This is the difference between temporary expansion and a self-sustaining growth engine. The most powerful businesses are built around a flywheel. A flywheel is a system where each action strengthens the next. Progress compounds. Effort produces momentum, and momentum reduces the energy required to keep moving. When designed correctly, growth becomes easier over time instead of harder. The first step in building this engine is clarifying your core value loop. Ask yourself a simple but critical question. What action creates value for the customer? And how does that action also strengthen the business? For example, when customers use your product, do they create data, visibility, or referrals that improve the experience for future users? When someone engages with your service, does it lower costs, increase quality, or expand reach? Growth becomes sustainable when customer value and business value are linked, not separate. Next comes systemization. Early growth often relies on heroic effort, long hours, manual processes, constant problem solving. While this is sometimes necessary in the beginning, it cannot scale. Sustainable growth requires replacing effort with systems. Systems remove friction, reduce errors, and free mental energy for higher-level decisions. This means documenting processes, automating repetitive tasks, and creating clear decision rules. It's not glamorous, but it's transformative. Each system you build turns chaos into structure and converts growth from fragile to durable. Another critical element is retention over acquisition. Many businesses obsess over bringing in new customers while neglecting the ones they already have. But retention is where compounding lies. A customer who stays longer, engages deeper, and advocates for your product multiplies growth without increasing acquisition costs. Retention improves when you focus on trust, consistency, and clarity. Deliver what you promise. Communicate simply. Remove friction wherever possible. Sustainable growth doesn't require constant novelty. It requires reliability. Then there is feedback integration. Not just collecting feedback, but embedding it into decision-making. High-performing businesses create structured channels where insights flow naturally from users into improvement. Feedback becomes a steering mechanism, not a reaction. This allows your business to evolve in alignment with real demand rather than assumptions. Over time, this responsiveness becomes a competitive advantage that is difficult to replicate. Equally important is energy management. Growth engines fail when founders and teams burn out. Sustainable businesses are built by people who understand pacing. They design workflows that protect focus, decision quality, and long-term motivation. This includes setting boundaries, prioritizing high-leverage work, and eliminating distractions that drain attention without producing results. Energy, when managed well, becomes a renewable resource rather than a limiting factor. Another overlooked component of the flywheel is reputation. Trust compounds. Each positive experience strengthens your credibility, lowers resistance, and accelerates future growth. Reputation acts as invisible leverage, opening doors, attracting partnerships, and reducing friction in every interaction. Reputation isn't built through marketing alone. It's built through consistent delivery, transparency, and integrity. Over time, this trust becomes an asset that carries your business forward even during periods of uncertainty. Finally, sustainable growth requires long-term thinking. Short-term wins feel good, but they often undermine durability. Flywheel builders make decisions that favor resilience over speed, depth over hype, and structure over shortcuts. They ask not only, will this work now, but also, will this still work when the business is 10 times larger? When your growth becomes systemic, progress stops feeling fragile. You're no longer relying on bursts of motivation or perfect conditions. Each action reinforces the next. Each improvement compounds. Each customer strengthens the engine. This is how small ideas mature into enduring businesses. Not through constant force, but through intelligent design. Growth becomes something you build once and benefit from repeatedly. And once your flywheel is in motion, the question is no longer how to grow faster. It becomes how to grow wisely, sustainably, and on your own terms. Chapter 7. Decisions that scale. Protecting growth as complexity increases. As a business grows, the nature of its challenges changes. Early on, progress is driven by speed, experimentation, and instinct. But as momentum builds, complexity follows. More customers, more systems, more decisions. And if those decisions aren't handled with discipline, growth can quietly begin to work against you. The businesses that last are not the ones that make the most decisions. They're the ones that make better decisions consistently, even as complexity increases. At scale, every decision carries weight. Small choices ripple outward, affecting teams, customers, and long-term direction. What once felt flexible now demands structure. What once relied on intuition now requires clarity. This transition is where many promising businesses stall or collapse, not because the idea failed, but because decision-making didn't evolve. The first shift is moving from reactive decisions to principled decisions. Reactive decision-making responds to urgency, pressure, or fear. Principled decision-making is guided by clear standards. These standards act as filters, allowing you to evaluate opportunities quickly without emotional overload. Principles might include prioritizing long-term trust over short-term profit, choosing simplicity over complexity, or favoring sustainable growth over aggressive expansion. When principles are clear, decisions become faster and more consistent, even in uncertain environments. Next is reducing decision fatigue. As complexity increases, mental energy becomes a scarce resource. Leaders who attempt to personally control every detail eventually burn out or slow the entire system. Scalable decision-making requires delegation, documentation, and clearly defined ownership. This means empowering others with frameworks rather than instructions. Instead of telling people exactly what to do, you define how to think. You establish decision rules, success criteria, and boundaries. This allows the organization to move quickly without losing alignment. Another critical skill is distinguishing between reversible and irreversible decisions. Not all choices deserve the same level of scrutiny. Reversible decisions can be tested, adjusted, or undone with minimal cost. Irreversible decisions require deeper analysis and caution. High-performing businesses move fast on reversible decisions and slow down only when the stakes are permanent. This prevents paralysis while protecting the core of the business. As growth continues, complexity must be actively managed, not tolerated. Complexity creeps in through unnecessary features, bloated processes, unclear roles, and misaligned incentives. Over time, this friction drains momentum and erodes focus. The discipline of simplification becomes essential. Simplification is not about doing less for the sake of it. It's about removing anything that doesn't directly support value creation. This includes eliminating redundant tools, streamlining workflows, and clarifying responsibilities. Every simplification strengthens the growth engine. Protecting growth also means maintaining cultural alignment. Culture is not slogans or statements. It's behavior. It's how decisions are made when no one is watching. As teams expand, culture either becomes intentional or diluted. Clear values, reinforced through action, help preserve coherence as the business scales. They guide behavior, reduce friction, and build trust internally and externally. Culture, when aligned, becomes a stabilizing force that protects growth from internal breakdown. Another overlooked aspect of scalable decision-making is learning speed. The faster a business can learn, the faster it can adapt. Learning speed increases when feedback loops are short, honest, and actionable. Mistakes are acknowledged quickly. Insights are shared openly. Adjustments are made without defensiveness. This creates a dynamic where complexity doesn't slow growth, it sharpens it. Finally, protecting growth requires strategic patience. Scaling introduces pressure to move faster, expand broader, and capture more. But sustainable success favors those who know when to pause, refine, and reinforce foundations. Strategic patience allows you to strengthen systems, deepen value, and correct misalignment before it becomes costly. It's the discipline of saying no to opportunities that distract from the core mission, even when they appear attractive. Decisions that scale are not about control. They're about clarity. Clarity of values. Clarity of priorities. Clarity of responsibility. When decision-making evolves alongside growth, complexity stops being a threat. It becomes a signal that the business is maturing. And with the right structures in place, each decision strengthens the foundation rather than weakening it. This is how small ideas survive success. Not by resisting growth, but by protecting it with intention, discipline, and thoughtful leadership. Chapter 8. Staying Ahead. Building long-term advantage in a changing world. Growth changes everything. What once felt fragile becomes stable. What once required constant effort begins to move with momentum. But success introduces a new challenge that's often underestimated: staying ahead. Many businesses don't fail because they couldn't grow. They fail because they couldn't adapt after growth arrived. Comfort replaces curiosity. Systems harden. Innovation slows. The very momentum that once created advantage becomes a reason for stagnation. Long-term advantage is not about defending the past. It's about continuously earning the future. The first pillar of staying ahead is deep customer understanding. Markets shift when behavior shifts, and behavior changes long before metrics reflect it. Businesses that endure don't rely solely on dashboards and reports. They maintain a living connection to their customers' evolving needs, frustrations, and expectations. This requires listening beyond feedback forms. It means observing usage patterns, paying attention to what customers stop doing, and noticing subtle changes in engagement. The goal is not to chase every trend, but to understand how value is changing at a human level. Next is continuous innovation without disruption for its own sake. Long-term leaders improve steadily rather than reinvent constantly. They refine what works, layer new value thoughtfully, and avoid unnecessary complexity. Innovation becomes a discipline, not a reaction. This balance allows the business to evolve without alienating its core audience. Customers feel progress without confusion. Systems improve without instability. Advantage compounds quietly. Another critical component is building durable moats. A moat is not a single feature or advantage. It's a layered defense built over time. Trust, brand reputation, community, data, proprietary processes, and switching costs all contribute to long-term defensibility. Moats are strongest when they are invisible. When customers stay not because they're trapped, but because leaving feels unnecessary. When competitors struggle not because the idea is secret, but because the execution is deeply embedded and hard to replicate. Equally important is talent and leadership continuity. As businesses grow, people shape trajectory as much as strategy. Long-term advantage depends on attracting, developing, and retaining individuals who align with the mission and values of the organization. Strong leadership creates stability during uncertainty and clarity during expansion. It ensures that growth doesn't dilute standards or erode culture. People who believe in the mission protect it instinctively. Another overlooked factor in staying ahead is strategic restraint. Growth creates opportunity, but not every opportunity deserves pursuit. Businesses that endure learn to say no with confidence. They resist distractions that dilute focus and weaken core strengths. Restraint protects depth. Depth creates mastery, and mastery is difficult to challenge. Long-term advantage also requires future-facing awareness. This doesn't mean predicting the future with certainty. It means staying alert to shifts in technology, regulation, and consumer behavior. It means running small experiments at the edges while protecting the core. These experiments act as sensors. They reveal what's changing without risking what already works. Over time, This awareness allows the business to adapt early rather than react late. Finally, staying ahead demands humility. Success can convince even the smartest leaders that they've figured everything out. But markets are dynamic, and certainty is temporary. Humility keeps learning alive. It preserves curiosity. It invites challenge. The businesses that last are not the loudest or the fastest. They're the most attentive. They listen carefully. They adapt thoughtfully. They grow steadily. Long-term advantage is built through consistency, learning, and disciplined evolution. It's not about winning once. It's about remaining relevant, trusted, and valuable over time. When you commit to staying ahead in this way, growth becomes more than expansion. It becomes endurance. And endurance, in the end, is what turns a successful business into a lasting one. Chapter 9. Beyond growth, identity, legacy, and meaningful impact. At a certain point, growth stops being the central question. Not because growth no longer matters, but because something deeper begins to surface. After momentum is built, systems are strong, and advantage is secured, a quieter question emerges beneath the noise of strategy and scale. What is all of this actually for? This is where many high-performing individuals feel an unexpected tension. The business is working. The results are there. Yet something feels incomplete. That feeling is not a flaw. It's a signal that the focus is shifting from expansion to significance. Long-term success eventually becomes less about what you're building and more about who you are becoming while building it. The first shift is recognizing that identity drives strategy. Every business reflects the values, priorities, and worldview of its leaders. Whether intentional or not, decisions carry the imprint of belief systems. When identity is unclear, growth can feel hollow or misaligned. When identity is defined, strategy gains coherence and depth. This means stepping back and asking harder questions. What do you stand for beyond results? What trade-offs are you no longer willing to make? What kind of impact do you want your work to have on people, industries, and systems? These questions refine direction and prevent success from drifting into emptiness. Next comes legacy thinking. Legacy is not about recognition or reputation. It's about durability. It's about what remains useful, valuable, or meaningful long after immediate rewards fade. Businesses that endure do so because they contribute something lasting: clarity, trust, infrastructure, opportunity, or progress. Legacy-driven leaders build with continuity in mind. They invest in systems that outlast them. They develop people, not just products. They make decisions that future teams can stand on, not work around. Legacy becomes a stabilizing force that guides choices when short-term incentives compete with long-term responsibility. Another important evolution is shifting from control to stewardship. Early-stage success often requires intense ownership and hands-on involvement. But as the business matures, leadership transforms. The goal becomes enabling others, protecting the mission, and guiding direction without micromanagement. Stewardship creates resilience. It distributes responsibility. It ensures that the business does not depend on a single individual's presence to function effectively. This transition is not easy, but it is necessary for lasting impact. Personal fulfillment also deepens at this stage. Success that is disconnected from values eventually feels draining. But when work aligns with purpose, effort becomes meaningful rather than exhausting. This alignment creates a sense of calm confidence, a feeling that progress is not just productive, but right. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition. It means refining it. Ambition evolves from accumulation to contribution, from visibility to value, from speed to depth. Another essential aspect of meaningful impact is ethical consistency. As influence grows, decisions affect more people. The cost of shortcuts increases. Integrity becomes not just a personal value, but a strategic asset. Trust compounds over time, and once broken, it is difficult to rebuild. Leaders who understand this protect their reputation by acting consistently, even when doing so is inconvenient. This consistency becomes part of the organization's identity, shaping culture and strengthening long-term relationships. Finally, there is the idea of integration. True success integrates business, identity, and life rather than forcing trade-offs between them. It allows you to grow without fragmentation, to succeed without losing clarity, to build without burning out. Integration creates sustainability at a human level. It ensures that progress enhances life rather than consuming it. When business success reaches this stage, growth is no longer the finish line. It becomes a platform for contribution, leadership, and lasting value. Small ideas that once felt insignificant have now shaped something meaningful. And the ultimate measure of success is no longer scale alone, but impact with integrity. This is where success becomes complete. Not because there is nothing left to build, but because what you build now reflects intention, values, and purpose, not just momentum. Chapter 10, Becoming the Builder, Integration, Ownership, and Forward Motion. At this point, the most important shift is no longer external. It's internal. Ideas, strategies, systems, and growth frameworks all matter, but none of them work unless they are integrated into how you think, decide, and act. The final transformation isn't about learning something new. It's about becoming someone different, someone who sees opportunity differently and responds to it with clarity and ownership. This is where you move from learning to embodying. The builder mindset is not defined by ambition alone. It's defined by responsibility. Responsibility for noticing what others overlook. Responsibility for acting instead of waiting. Responsibility for shaping outcomes instead of reacting to circumstances. Becoming a builder means you stop outsourcing belief. You no longer wait for confidence before acting. You act, observe, refine, and move forward with discipline. You understand that certainty is a byproduct of motion, not a prerequisite for it. One of the most powerful integrations at this stage is trusting small beginnings. You no longer dismiss ideas because they feel modest. You understand that scale is earned, not imagined. You give ideas room to grow instead of demanding that they prove themselves immediately. This patience is not passive. It's deliberate. You test, you learn, you iterate. You stay close to reality. You build strength quietly before visibility demands it. Another essential shift is ownership of outcomes. Builders do not blame markets, timing, or conditions. They take responsibility for interpretation and response. When something works, they study why. When it fails, they extract insight instead of excuses. This level of ownership is not harsh. It's freeing. It gives you control where it matters most and how you adapt. Integration also means alignment between thinking and action. You stop consuming ideas endlessly without applying them. You choose fewer inputs and extract deeper value from each one. Learning becomes practical. Insight becomes movement. You don't need more information. You need clearer execution. At this stage, consistency matters more than intensity. Builders don't rely on bursts of motivation. They design rhythms, daily habits of observation, decision-making, and refinement. These habits compound quietly, shaping judgment and sharpening instinct over time. This is how intuition is built, not through talent, but through repetition. Another key element of integration is long-term orientation. Builders are willing to trade speed for strength when needed. They understand that shortcuts create fragility. They make decisions that future versions of themselves won't have to undo. This perspective changes how you measure success. Progress is no longer judged by noise or recognition. It's judged by stability, clarity, and momentum that doesn't require constant force. There's also a deeper personal shift that happens here. You stop tying your identity to outcomes. Wins don't inflate you. Losses don't define you. You remain grounded because your identity is rooted in process, not performance. This emotional steadiness is not indifference. It's maturity. From this place, growth becomes cleaner. Decisions feel calmer. Pressure loses its grip. You move forward not because you're chasing something, but because building is simply how you operate. The final realization is this. Small ideas never stop maturing. Even at scale, progress still comes from noticing details, refining systems, and responding thoughtfully. The same mindset that helped you begin is the one that sustains you. Becoming the builder means carrying this way of thinking into everything you do. Business, work, decisions, life. You pay attention. You take responsibility. You act with intention. And over time, that combination becomes unstoppable. Not because it's loud, not because it's dramatic, but because it's grounded, disciplined, and real. That is how small ideas become big wins. And more importantly, that is how builders are made.